The crash came fast. Forrester Creations, once the diamond of American fashion, was spiraling. Sales numbers dipped. Public interest waned. Stockholders grew nervous. Whispers filled the boardroom. The designs were stagnant. The magic was gone. And though Ridge Forrester had returned to the helm, even his name couldn't stop the bleeding. Eric Forrester watched it all unfold with growing dread. His legacy, his family's pride, was at risk of becoming a relic. Desperate for a shake-up, he went searching, quietly, discreetly, beyond the borders of LA. What he found was a spark from the past: Isabella Moretti. In Milan, Isabella had carved out a name for herself. Known for her bold tailoring and rebellious use of form, she was equal parts visionary and enigma. But what Eric remembered wasn't her recent acclaim. It was the girl who once walked the halls of design school with Ridge. The girl who once stood in his shadow. Brilliant, quiet, and secretly in love with him. She had vanished from the LA scene decades ago, returning to Italy, leaving behind only rumors. But now she was needed. Eric made the call. And Isabella said yes. When she arrived at Forrester Creations, the effect was immediate. She cut through the tension of the design room like a razor. Dressed in stark black, hair pinned tight, eyes cold and observant, Isabella didn't smile, she assessed. She spoke with precision. Her first sketches stunned the room. They were unlike anything Forrester had dared in years: angular, aggressive, sensual, European in edge, but hauntingly personal. And Eric, sensing both danger and salvation, gave her full creative control of the upcoming couture line. The response was electric. Fashion blogs buzzed. Retailers doubled their orders. Forrester's stock ticked upward. The press hailed her as the resurrection of the brand. And for a moment, the Forrester family could breathe again. But not Brooke. Not Taylor. Because behind Isabella's cutting-edge brilliance was a sharp, deliberate strategy. Each design in her new line wasn't just fashion, it was a story. Her first runway piece bore intricate embroidery resembling the sea-facing cliffs of Tuscany, where she and Ridge once shared a summer that neither of them ever spoke of again. The second look, a structured blazer in stormy blue silk, mirrored the exact shade of the suit Ridge wore the night of their graduation. These weren't coincidences. They were codes. Messages. And then came the photographs. They weren't new. In fact, they were old, grainy, sun-drenched images of Ridge and Isabella as young artists, entangled on Italian rooftops, sketchbooks forgotten, lips inches apart. The photos appeared online first, on a fringe Italian fashion blog, then mysteriously leaked to a gossip site in Los Angeles. Within days, they were everywhere. And Brooke Logan, always sharp when it came to threats, saw it for what it was: an opening salvo. Brooke confronted Ridge. He claimed innocence. "They're just old pictures," he said. "They mean nothing." But Brooke didn't buy it. She knew Ridge too well. His silence was never about guilt. It was about protection. Of something, or someone. And Isabella wasn't just an old flame. She was here, in her house, at her table, gaining power, one stitch at a time. Taylor Hayes, for her part, wasn't any calmer. Isabella's arrival ignited old insecurities, especially now that Taylor had begun to inch closer to Ridge again. She'd let herself believe, foolishly, that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild something. Isabella shattered that illusion. And Isabella saw all of it. The tension. The distrust. She wore it like perfume. At first, she played nice. She complimented Brooke's classic style. She praised Taylor's grace. But behind closed doors, she was already moving pieces. A junior designer was promoted overnight, one who had once interned under Isabella in Milan. A long-standing fabric supplier was cut, replaced by an exclusive Italian partnership Isabella personally negotiated. She started meeting privately with media executives, staging editorial shoots that excluded the Forresters entirely. Slowly, carefully, she began to rebrand Forrester Creations in her own image. And then came the second leak. This time, it wasn't just pictures. It was a letter. A love letter written by Ridge during their student years, full of passion and longing. It landed in the inboxes of several fashion editors across Europe. No sender. No explanation. But the implication was clear. Ridge hadn't just flirted with Isabella. He had loved her. The fallout was immediate. Brooke exploded. She accused Ridge of emotional infidelity. Ridge denied sending the letter but admitted, under pressure, that he had written it. Taylor retreated. Again, watching history repeat itself. She told Ridge, quietly, that she wouldn't stand in line anymore. Not for him. Not for anyone. And Isabella? She stayed quiet, calm, powerful. In meetings, she continued delivering. Her second full collection was an even greater success. International buyers flooded in. The company's value soared. Eric was thrilled, blind to the war brewing behind the curtain. All he saw was revival. He didn't care how it happened. But the Forresters did. Brooke began fighting back. She rallied support from longtime allies within the company, including Donna and Katie. She reopened old marketing channels, reintroduced the Brooks Bedroom line with a new campaign that reminded customers what made Forrester iconic in the first place: sensuality, not subtle sabotage. Sales rose, but so did the tension between her and Isabella. Meanwhile, Ridge remained conflicted. He admired Isabella's talent. He couldn't deny their history. But he was also growing suspicious. The leaks, the manipulation, the way she kept the press fed just enough to stoke drama without exposing her own hand. And when he finally confronted her, she didn't deny any of it. "I'm not here for revenge, Ridge," she said. "I'm here to finish what we started." Ridge froze. "We didn't start anything." Isabella's voice lowered. "That's what you tell yourself. But I was never the one who walked away." Behind her calm, there was fury. Years of being overlooked, of having her talent dismissed in favor of the Forrester name. Now she had the stage. And she wasn't letting go. Brooke, sensing the walls closing in, played her final card. She leaked a story of her own to a friendly journalist. The headline was clear: "The Italian Intruder. Is Forrester's new star sabotaging the family brand?" The article included a not-so-subtle reminder of Isabella's lack of American credentials, her rapid rise, and the suspicious timing of her arrival. It was ruthless. Isabella was livid. She confronted Brooke at Forrester headquarters, in front of the board, in front of Ridge. "Is this who you are?" she said. "Still clinging to the past, afraid of anyone who challenges your throne?" Brooke didn't flinch. "I protect this family. From people like you." Eric intervened, furious. He demanded professionalism. But the damage was done. The board was shaken. Investors didn't like drama. And the lines between art and war had blurred too far. Ridge made a decision. He called a private meeting. "You can stay," he told Isabella. "But only as creative director. No more leaks. No more drama. No more ghosts." Isabella's jaw tightened. "And if I refuse?" "You walk." She stared at him for a long time. "I loved you once, Ridge," she said. "I built a career from what you left behind." Then she left the room. No answer. No confirmation. The next morning, she resigned. But not before leaving one last bomb. A press release. One that unveiled her own fashion house, based in Milan, launching in 6 months. backed by European investors. Her own name, her own brand, and a tagline that left no doubt where she stood. Moretti. The future of fashion isn't inherent, it's earned. The world took notice. Forrester Creations had survived. For now. But the war for influence had changed the landscape forever. And Isabella? She hadn't lost. She had evolved. The shockwaves from Isabella Moretti's sudden resignation hadn't even settled when tragedy struck. Just 3 weeks after she announced the launch of her new Milan-based fashion house, her lifeless body was discovered in her rented Malibu villa. The news broke early in the morning, first as a rumor on social media, then confirmed by police. Isabella Moretti, 44, visionary designer and rising fashion icon, was dead. The cause, blunt force trauma to the back of the head. The manner, under investigation. Los Angeles erupted with speculation. Forrester Creations issued a carefully worded statement expressing sorrow and shock. Eric was devastated. Ridge went silent. Taylor, visibly shaken, told reporters she was praying for answers. But no one felt the tremor of guilt more than Brooke Logan. Because Brooke knew the truth. She had been the last person to see Isabella alive. It had started as a confrontation, a final attempt to end the feud before it could spill further into scandal. Brooke had shown up at Isabella's villa unannounced, the early evening sun casting long shadows over the balcony as she knocked on the door. Isabella let her in without hesitation, calm and detached as always. "I assume you're here to beg," she said, pouring herself a glass of wine. Brooke didn't flinch. "I'm here to stop you." Isabella laughed. "You're too late." What followed wasn't an argument. It was a war. Sharp words. Accusations. Brooke called her a manipulator, a liar, a threat to everything the Forresters had built. Isabella, with venom barely concealed, accused Brooke of being a coward, clinging to Ridge like a trophy she never really earned. And then came the push. It wasn't planned. It wasn't even hard. Brooke had reached to grab Isabella's wrist as she turned to walk away. Isabella jerked back, lost her balance, and fell. Her head struck the edge of the stone wall beside the fireplace. The sound was sickening. Brooke froze. Isabella didn't move. There was no scream. No gasp. Just silence. The wine glass shattered on the floor, red liquid bleeding into the tile like a warning. Brooke dropped to her knees. She shook Isabella. Called her name. Nothing. No breath. No pulse. Panic overtook reason. She looked around. No one had seen her enter. No cameras. No witnesses. Her instincts, those sharp, primal instincts that had kept her at the top of the fashion world for decades, kicked in. She cleaned the wine. She moved the body. She rearranged the villa to look like a robbery gone wrong. She removed the security system's memory card. Then, without looking back, she walked out into the night and drove home, locking the truth behind her tight smile. The next morning, she sat at the Forrester board table like nothing had happened. But the cracks were immediate. Ridge was inconsolable. He hadn't spoken to Isabella since she left Forrester, and now he never would. He took it personally. Deeply. Publicly. The police questioned everyone connected to Isabella. Business partners. Staff. Rivals. Brooke was called in. Once. She wore black. Understated. Grieving. Her story was simple. They hadn't spoken since Isabella resigned. She lied flawlessly. Detectives noted the tension, but found no physical evidence connecting her to the scene. No fingerprints. No camera footage. No witnesses. Officially, the case remained open. Unsolved. But not cold. Privately, Ridge couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The timing. The silence. The way Isabella had died, sudden, brutal, personal. He started watching Brooke. Her habits, her moods, and little things didn't add up. Her sleepless nights, her offhand comments, her refusal to talk about Isabella at all. And one day, in the middle of a board meeting, he asked her point-blank, "Did you see her before she died?" Brooke's hands trembled slightly. "No," she said. He nodded, but something in his eyes changed. Elsewhere, Detective Mariana Cruz, the lead on the Isabella case, reopened a line of inquiry that had gone overlooked. The source of the letter Ridge wrote to Isabella. Where had the copy come from? Who had access? That trail led her back to the Forrester server. To an old draft email. Deleted. Recovered. Traced. To Brooke Logan. It wasn't enough to prove murder. But it was enough to prove access, motive, opportunity. And that changed everything. Brooke sensed the noose tightening. She doubled down on control. She buried herself in charity galas and family dinners. She leaned hard into her image as the grieving matriarch of Forrester Creations. But at night, she drank. Alone. Heavily. Haunted by the way Isabella's body had gone limp. By the echo of her skull against stone. One night, after another sleepless bout, she wandered into the design studio and found Ridge there. Alone. Staring at one of Isabella's sketches. She was brilliant, he said without looking up. Brooke stood in the doorway. She was dangerous, she replied. She was honest, Ridge said. Even when it hurt. Brooke's silence gave him all the answer he needed. He turned. Tell me it wasn't you. Her voice was a whisper. I didn't mean to. His eyes hardened. But you did. She cried then. For real. She told him everything. The fight. The push. The fear. The cleanup. The lie. It spilled out like poison, and once it started, it didn't stop. Ridge sat in silence, watching the woman he'd loved unravel. When she finished, she begged him. Please, Ridge. Don't turn me in. I couldn't lose you. I couldn't lose everything. He stood, stepped back. You already did. Ridge left her there. Alone. Broken. He didn't call the police. Not yet. But he filed for separation the next day. Quietly. Legally. Finally, Brooke kept the secret. But she lost the family. Taylor took over as the emotional center of the Forresters, guiding the children through the shock. Eric, devastated, stepped down as CEO. Steffi and Thomas restructured leadership. And the world moved on. But the truth has a way of rotting everything it touches. 1 year later, Detective Cruz received an anonymous envelope. Inside, a photo. Brooke Logan. At Isabella's villa. Time-stamped. Dated. The case was reopened. And this time, justice would not be denied.